Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New York Empoleon's finals team builder of the PBAL Season 6. We are here this week taking on Sventhun, coach of the Uppsala Umbreons, and we are nervous, I think, is a good word for it, but also excited. The PBAL is a league that I have made it to playoffs by winning the regular season 2 seasons in a row and immediately lost in the first round. So twice we have now lost in the first round of playoffs to the champion, who eventually went on to win. We are either going to be the champion or make it a three-peat of losing to the champion. There is no other alternative. We have made it past the first round, broken that curse, so can we break the curse of losing to the eventual champion and actually get ourselves a victory here this week? We're going to find out. Sventhun is an amazing opponent, and if you have not checked out his channel, go check it out. Links in the description below. He is an awesome competitor, and I am very excited to face him this week, but we are going to put forth the best we can to try to win this match. His team is Zygarde, 10%, Celebi, Sharpedo, Rotom, Buzzwole, Heatran, Garbodor, Celesteela, Drampa, and Clefairy. Now, if you have been paying attention to my team, you will realize that I struggle against bulky steals. I've lucked out in that most of the time I have some sort of response to them. He has 2 that I struggle against a lot. He also has the ability to go in the physically defensive side with Buzzwole and specially defensive side with Heatran, both of which can counter the most reliable Dragapul sets. Celesteela could run any number of sets, from Weakness Policy to Power or Meteor Beam to a Sub-Seed Stall set with Leftovers and Protect. So I have to really scout out that Celesteela. That may end up costing me a Mon, possibly the game, which is really tough. Hopefully he just hands it to me for free. I don't think he's going to do that. He's a very good player, but I can dream, right? Anyway, we're going to start off here with the Obstagoon. We liked that Flame Orb set last time when it came out and did work. I did run Switcheroo before. This time I'm opting for Parting Shot, mostly because of the specific matchup. This thing goes for a knockoff, baits in the Buzzwole, and gets rid of potentially a Scarf, potentially Leftovers or Rocky Helmet or whatever. And then I am free to be faster and Parting Shot no matter what if he does go into that and let it take the knockoff. If I can get that chip down far enough to about 50% between knockoff and eventually rocks, as you'll see, Facade can finish it off. And so the Buzzwole does eventually lose the 1v1 against the Obstagoon, and Parting Shot allows me to go into my checks to it a little bit better. Additionally, if he doesn't have the Buzzwole, or if I don't want this thing taking a hit, I can Parting Shot on something that it counters, potentially like the Celebi or the Drampa that doesn't want to take a hit, and just see what he's going to do, what he's going to go into, and be able to get out for free. So I didn't end up running to run the Switcheroo. The rest of the coverage actually is pretty similar. Low Kick, again, max powers out on the things that I would actually use it for, or relevantly max powers out, I guess. Doesn't max power on the Sharpedo, but I don't need it to hit the Sharpedo. I mean, it'll die to a Facade as well, so I'm not too worried about that. And it's just better than taking the potential defense drop from close combat, so I'd rather just have the Low Kick instead. So that's what we decided to end up running. Next up is my Talonflame. Now, Talonflame's an interesting mon this week because it is actually sort of a Heatran lore, but it also doesn't hit the Heatran like at all. So it gets nothing to cover Heatran. But the thing is, Heatran likely will only have either Dark Pulse, maybe, or like Magma Storm for extra damage to hit my Talonflame back. And I'm fairly specially defensive and max HP and not super physically offensive invested. Taunt shuts down the Heatran. It can't Toxic, it can't set up rocks, can't set up a sub, and then I can freely Swords Dance, and if it stays in, I do actually get to +6 pretty reliably, and Brave Bird at that point does about 70%, so if his Heatran is chipped at all, and I mean like 2 switch-ins to rocks or any chip at all, potentially +6 Talonflame can kill it. It struggles to sweep because Heatran will break it down far enough to where something like the Zygarde 10% could come in an extreme speed, or like a Scarf Buzzwole could potentially threaten it out. But that said, it's sort of a Heatran lure to keep the Heatran off of rocks, to keep the momentum on my side, and maybe get a big breaking job. And if I can get to +2 or +4, as the Heatran maybe switches out, then I'm going to be in good shape to kill whatever comes in, because I outspeed his entire team with this. So I don't know if it's going to get a sweep, but it should hopefully do the one job it needs to do, which is break the Heatran, which is something that really shuts my team down. Once the Heatran's gone, it opens up my offense and opens up my options so much. Next up, we have the Girder this week, coming with the Mach Punch, Drain Punch, Fire Punch, and Bulk Up. I wanted Knockoff so bad, you guys don't understand, but Bulk Up is so good in this matchup, and Fire Punch allows me to hit the Celesteela just that much harder. At +2, I can 2-hit KO the Celesteela. That's not impossible to get to. Now, it is worrisome because if he Autotomize and then has Weakness Policy, then I could be in a lot of trouble. Since I can't really take a +2 hit, but +2 Mach Punch is going to do some decent damage to it. Drain Punch should keep me out of range of anything. This thing hard walls the Sharpedo and sets up on it, hard walls the Buzzwole and sets up on it, and can set up against things like maybe a physical Garbodor, or even the Zygarde 10% if it's not Dragon Dance. So I had Ice Punch for a little while, I had Knockoff for a little while, I wanted all those moves, but I think this is the set that I ended up having the most success with and wanted to bring to this matchup. Drain Punch is just great to get recovery. I am Iron Fist so that I can get the punch. That might not surprise anyone, although Guts is a pretty good ability here to even further shut down things like the Rotom, which doesn't happily switch in on a +1 Fire Punch if I do want to make that prediction. So, and is always going to be a little bit nervous about the knockoff potential from this Girder. So hopefully Rotom doesn't end up presenting as much of a threat as I worry about, but Fire Punch really gives me some good coverage, and it covers the Buzzwole and the Celesteela, which are two things that this Girder struggles with otherwise, especially if it has knockoff. Next up is my Dragapul. Dragapul this week is going to be rocking out with I'd say it's a mixed set. It's not. It's a special set. Draco Meteor, Thunderbolt, U-Turn, and Surf covers anything that could potentially switch in and does a decent amount of damage. I am Life Orb because my HP stat is sort of irrelevant. And Draco covers the two dragons he's got, and then Surf is for Heatran, Thunderbolt's for Celesteela, and U-Turn on the Buzzwole if I don't want to click Draco Meteor on it. I could have run Fire Blast for both the Celesteela and the Buzzwole, but I decided that it wasn't worth it because Heatran could switch in and just get a Flash Fire boost, and then that's actually way more threatening to my Talonflame. And I probably am going to U-turn on things like that anyway the first time they come in because I don't want to activate Weakness Policy. And Thunderbolt, again, it hits the Heatran at least a little bit. It could para the Buzzwole. I thought about Scald on the Surf slot just to catch all of them and maybe get a burn, but Surf just gave me that little extra power I think I needed this week in order to make this as viable as possible. Next up is the Gardevoir, rocking out with the Moonblast, Teleport, Wish, and Thunderbolt. We have not brought a Teleport Gardevoir yet this season, but here it is. This set has some EVs going on. So I am physically defensive to make sure I can live any hit from Sharpedo, from Buzzwole, from Garbodor, from Zygarde, and be able to safely do what I need to do. So I can take any hit from them and kill potentially any of them with Moonblast. Those are all things that I can take hits from and kill back, except for the Garbodor, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Wish, Support, potentially Wish into Teleport, depending on what the matchup is against me, could really help me get into something safely. It can help the Obstagoon recover its health after it's taken a few Flame Orb hits. And T-Bolt is good coverage, like I've been mentioning, against things like the Celesteela. I really worry about Weakness Policy for this particular set because I can't OHKO it. Now, I do have a lot of special defense investment as well, so that I can take any hit from the Celesteela, even potentially at +1, depending on whether it's like an offensive boosting item or not. So that's okay. Celesteela is going to struggle to be able to beat my entire roster if it has Autotomize in one of its slots, because that only leaves 3 slots for moves, and it needs a rock move like Meteor Beam for Talonflame, otherwise it gets walled. It needs a flying move for Girder, otherwise that walls it, and it needs a steel move for Gardevoir, otherwise that walls it, and you'll see my next mon, it'll need a grass move for Swampert, otherwise that walls it. So that's 4 moves. It can only have 3 of them. I should have to figure out which 3 they are, and hopefully be able to read it correctly early enough in the game that I don't lose the mons that I need in order to catch it, because I have the checks to it when we start 6v6. Will I have them when it's mid-game? We'll find out. And lastly, we have my Swampert. I changed this set last minute. So we are Flip Turn, Mirror Coat, Stealth Rock, and Yawn with the Rindo Berry because Celesteela rocks that Energy Ball and kills me. So Rindo Berry will turn that around and actually kill the Celesteela, or put it at like 2% if it is going to survive. There's a role with a less invested Celesteela. The Energy Ball or Giga Drain doesn't put it into death from Mirror Coat range, but certainly it doesn't appreciate it. It doesn't activate Weakness Policy, which is awesome. And early in the game, I also have the option here to Yawn instead of going for the Mirror Coat right away. If he goes for an Energy Ball against this Swampert early in the game, I Yawn. Now he has to decide, do I kill the Swampert and my Celesteela goes to sleep, or do I switch out and not kill the Swampert, in which case the Swampert can come back in later. I do have access to Stealth Rock, Flip Turn as well, which Stealth Rocks are super nice in this matchup if I can get them up, but I will prioritize making sure that other things die in exchange for not getting Stealth Rocks up. The other thing is Power Herb, Solar Beam, Heatran, if that is his option to beat the Swampert, isn't going to kill me in one hit, and so I'm going to be able to Mirror Coat that and kill that. And I ran it over the EQ slot for that specific purpose because the only reason Heatran is staying in anyway is to go for a Power Herb Solar Beam. It's not going to stay in if it doesn't have that. So Flip Turn is potentially more reliable, but Mirror Coat and EQ will do the same thing since I'm not going to outspeed the Heatran regardless. The only thing that gets hit a little bit less hard by this is Garbodor, but I set up a Stealth Rock on Garbodor and Flip Turn out anyway, so I'm not too stressed about it, and I have other answers elsewhere on my team. So this is a matchup that I will say I do not feel like I have 100% guaranteed victory. I've never said that about a matchup, but I certainly don't feel like the best here. But I do think my team has the answers to his team, and it's going to be a matter of solving the puzzle, doing the early game information gain without losing too much ground, and then using that information late game, which is something that I do very, very well. And so hopefully it goes like I want it to. I will see you guys all back here tomorrow with that finals battle. Take care, everybody.